A millionaire finds the housekeeper's black son rummaging through the trash in his house, and when he discovers the reason why, he is devastated. Robert Hamilton parked her Tesla in the garage of her Beverly Hills mansion when she heard something that made his heart race. It was desperate crying, but not the usual crying of a child throwing a tantrum. It was the sound of someone losing a battle against injustice. The California sun beat down on the backyard as Robert followed the noise to the laundry room. What he saw made his world stop for a few seconds. Tyler, the 8-year-old son of his cleaning lady Patricia, was kneeling on the cold floor, his small hands dirty with trash, frantically rummaging through plastic bags as if looking for lost treasure. Tears streamed down his little face as he threw paper after paper away, with the desperation of someone who knows that time is running out. Her school clothes were all stained, but Tyler didn't care. Something much more important was at stake. "Tyler, my boy, what are you doing there?" Robert ran toward the boy, feeling an inexplicable anguish take hold of her chest. The little boy looked up with red, swollen eyes, trying to wipe away his tears with the back of his dirty hand. "Mr. Hamilton," Tyler sobbed, "they threw it away. They said it was trash, but it's not trash. I need to find it before the truck takes it away forever." Her trembling voice carried a pain that no child should ever know. Robert knelt down beside Tyler, trying to process why an 8-year-old would be so desperate. "What things, Tyler? What did they throw away?" The boy wiped his nose on the sleeve of his school uniform and whispered in a broken voice, his science fair project and pictures of his mom when she was little. "Principal Coleman said it was worthless junk, but that's not true, Mr. Hamilton. Mom worked with me all last week on that project." Robert felt something cold run down her spine. Had Principal Coleman thrown away Tyler's project? Why? Before he could ask, Patricia's firm voice echoed through the garden. "Tyler Washington, what are you doing out there? Son, you're all dirty." Patricia approached quickly, wearing his immaculate work uniform. His eyes showed genuine concern, but also a weariness Robert had never noticed before. Tyler immediately ran into his mother's arms, hiding like a frightened child. "Mom, the principal threw away his solar energy project. The one we did together with the plastic bottles and small panels. She said in front of the whole class that it was slum work." The words came out between sobs, each one like a stab in Patricia's heart. Robert felt the blood boil in his veins. "She said what?" His voice came out louder than he intended. Patricia looked at him with an expression that mixed shame and resignation. "Mr. Hamilton, you don't need to worry about it. These things happen. Tyler will do another project." But her eyes told a different story. It was the story of a mother who worked 2 jobs to keep her son in a private school, only to see him being humiliated by prejudice. Tyler clung tighter to his mother. "But Mom," she said, that kids like he should accept his place in life and stop dreaming about things that aren't for his social class. The silence that followed was deafening. Robert looked at this bright child, who always greeted him politely when he came home from school, who helped his mother organize the cleaning supplies, who dreamed of being a scientist when he grew up. The phrase echoed in her mind, "Kids like me." What did that mean, kids like Tyler? Smart kids? Hard-working kids? Or was it something much more sinister related to the skin color of an 8-year-old boy? Robert Hamilton was 52 years old and had built a technology empire from scratch. He had always considered himself a fair person who treated everyone with respect. But at that moment, looking at Tyler and Patricia, he realized that he had been blind to a world of injustice happening right under his nose. And for the first time in decades, the billionaire who controlled multinational companies felt completely lost in the face of a situation that no amount of money could solve. But Tyler had awakened something in him that had been dormant for a long time, a burning desire to fight for justice. If you are moved by this story of prejudice and overcoming adversity, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because what Robert discovered about Tyler's school will make you rethink everything about the educational system we know. That night, Robert couldn't sleep. Tyler's words echoed in his mind, "Kids like me should accept our place in life." What place? The place of a brilliant child who dreamed of being a scientist? At 3 in the morning, he got up and went to his office to review the school records Patricia had left on the table weeks ago. Tyler Washington, 8 years old. Overall average, 9.7. Math, 10. Science, 10. Teacher comments, exceptionally dedicated and creative student. But there was a recent note from Principal Coleman, needs guidance on realistic expectations for his academic future. Robert felt his blood boil again. Realistic expectations? For a child who got straight A's in science? The next morning, he decided to take action. Patricia, I need to go to Tyler's school today. There's something I can't ignore. Patricia stopped organizing his cleaning supplies, her eyes revealing instant panic. Mr. Hamilton, please, there's no need to bother. These things happen all the time. Tyler will get over it. Happen all the time. Robert repeated slowly. Patricia, tell me the truth. What else has been happening at school? She hesitated, clearly torn between gratitude for her job and the need to protect her son. Finally, she whispered, Tyler came home last week saying the principal called him in for a private conversation. She said he was dreaming too big, that he should focus on professions more suited to our social reality. Robert felt a growing anger. What professions? Gardening, cleaning, manual labor. She said that people like us should be grateful for the opportunities we have, not too ambitious. Patricia wiped away a tear she was trying to hide. I work 3 jobs to pay for that private school, Mr. Hamilton. I thought it would be different from public schools. 3 jobs? Robert had never asked about Patricia's personal life. What are the others? I clean offices at night and work in a laundry on weekends. Tyler studies alone because we can't afford a babysitter. Her voice carried the weight of a mother making impossible sacrifices. Robert thought of his own privileged childhood, where his only concern was which Ivy League university to choose. Patricia, show me Tyler's schoolwork. She brought out a carefully organized folder. Each project was a miniature scientific masterpiece. Volcanoes that actually erupted, working electrical circuits, experiments on renewable energy. All made from recycled materials, but with the precision of a professional engineer. My God, Robert murmured as he leafed through the work. This boy is a genius. He says he wants to create technologies to help poor families have cheap energy at home. He stays up late into the night designing solar panels. Patricia smiled with a mixture of pride and sadness. But Principal Coleman says these ideas are fantasies unsuitable for our social class. Robert slammed the folder shut. Social class. As if Tyler's DNA were any different from the children of millionaires who attended the same school. I'm going to talk to that principal today. Please, Mr. Hamilton, don't mention that he told me these things. I need this job, and Tyler needs this school. If she finds out he spoke. The vulnerability in Patricia's voice made Robert realize how courageous she had been to confide in he. A single black mother, dependent on her job, risking everything to defend her son. Patricia, you and Tyler won't lose anything. I guarantee it. There was something in Robert's voice that she had never heard before. A determination that went beyond casual sympathy. 2 hours later, Robert was in Principal Coleman's luxurious office at Prestige Academy. The environment screamed exclusivity, expensive paintings on the walls, fine wood furniture, academic trophies from generations of privileged students. Mr. Hamilton, what a wonderful surprise, said Coleman, clearly flattered to receive one of the school's wealthiest parents. I hope it's nothing serious involving one of his family's students. Actually, it's about Tyler Washington. Her expression changed instantly. Oh. An awkward pause. His maid's son. Robert noticed how she avoided saying cleaning lady, but the disdain was obvious. Yes. I understand you threw out his science fair project. Coleman sighed dramatically. Mr. Hamilton, I understand your concern for staff, but that project was inadequate for our academic standards. Made from trash materials, no professional presentation. It would not represent our institution well at a science fair. Trash materials that worked perfectly to demonstrate solar energy, Robert replied coldly. Well, yes, but look. Coleman leaned forward conspiratorially. Between us, we need to be realistic about the limitations of these scholarship students. Tyler is a sweet kid, but encouraging him to compete with the children of doctors and engineers would be cruel. I'm just protecting him from inevitable disappointment. Robert felt something cold run down his spine. Limitations. You understand, she smiled condescendingly. Socio-cultural differences, different family expectations, limited access to advanced educational resources. It's our responsibility to guide them toward more appropriate paths. Appropriate. Technical professions, skilled manual labor. There is dignity in these jobs, Mr. Hamilton. Not everyone is born to be a CEO like he. Robert realized that Coleman truly believed she was being kind. The prejudice was so ingrained that she saw her discrimination as maternal protection. What if I told you that Tyler has an IQ higher than 95% of the students at this school? Robert lied, but something told him it wasn't far from the truth. Coleman laughed nervously. Mr. Hamilton, with all due respect, these tests can be influenced by, well, cultural differences in the interpretation of the questions. At that moment, Robert saw with crystal clarity what was really going on. It wasn't educational incompetence. It was systemic racism disguised as pedagogical concern. Principal Coleman, I'm going to be very direct. Tyler Washington is going to participate in the state science fair representing this school. And he's going to win. Her blinked several times, clearly confused. Mr. Hamilton, I'm afraid that's not possible. The entries have already been submitted with other more suitable projects. Robert smiled for the first time since he had arrived. But it wasn't a friendly smile. It was the smile of a man who had built an empire by destroying people who underestimated his determination. Principal Coleman, there are some things about me you may not know. And there are some things about this situation that you definitely don't understand yet. He stood up to leave, but paused at the door. By the way, I hope you've documented your conversations with Tyler about knowing his place in life well. You may need to explain these educational philosophies to some people very soon. As he walked down the school hallway, Robert felt something he hadn't felt in years, the thrill of battle. He had spent decades building companies, but now he had a different project. He was going to use every connection, every resource, every favor owed to him to show the world exactly what Tyler Washington was capable of. And in the process, Coleman would learn that some children have powerful protectors she never imagined. What the principal didn't know was that Robert had recorded the entire conversation on his cell phone. And what her really couldn't imagine was that this quiet man walking through the hallways was planning something that would change not only Tyler's life, but the future of hundreds of children like he. Each new humiliation Coleman inflicted on Tyler only fueled a growing strength in Robert, a quiet determination that would turn his arrogance into his own professional ruin. 48 hours after confronting Coleman, Robert received a call that made his blood boil. It was Patricia, crying on the phone. Mr. Hamilton, they expelled Tyler from school. They said he was caught stealing supplies from the science lab. Her voice trembled with despair and anger. But Tyler would never steal anything. Never. Robert closed his laptop in his office and focused completely on the conversation. Patricia, what exactly happened? Principal Coleman called Tyler in for a private conversation yesterday. She said she had reconsidered his situation at school and that it might be better for he to attend an institution more suited to his socio-economic profile. Patricia sniffed, trying to control her tears. This morning, they found electronic components in his backpack. Components that Tyler didn't put there. Exactly. But who is going to believe the word of a cleaning lady and a black child against the word of a respected principal? The bitterness in Patricia's voice cut Robert like a knife. Robert felt something much deeper than anger. It was pure, cold, calculating determination. Patricia, bring Tyler here this afternoon. The three of us need to talk. 2 hours later, Tyler was sitting in the Hamilton Mansion's library, still in his school uniform, but with red eyes from crying. Mr. Hamilton, I swear I didn't take anything. Aunt Coleman said that kids like his sometimes do the wrong thing instinctively, and that it was better for him to confess so it wouldn't get worse. By instinct. Robert repeated, feeling the temperature in the room seemed to drop several degrees. She said that people of my social class sometimes develop inappropriate behaviors when exposed to environments far above her natural reality. Tyler wiped his nose on his sleeve. That it was like putting a wild bird in a golden cage. Robert exchanged a meaningful glance with Patricia. Coleman wasn't just being prejudiced. She was being systematically cruel to an 8-year-old child. Tyler, tell me something. Do you know other children at school who have been through similar situations? The boy nodded slowly. Jasmine, his canteen owner's daughter. She's very good at math, but Aunt Coleman always says she should focus on cooking because she already has a family talent. And Marcus, the security guard's son, who draws really well, but was banned from participating in the art contest because his style wasn't appropriate for our institution. Patricia covered her mouth with her hands. Mr. Hamilton, they're all scholarship kids. All black or from working-class families. Robert stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the perfectly manicured garden of her property. At 52, he had built an empire based on identifying patterns and solving complex problems. And now he saw with crystal clarity that Coleman was not an incompetent educator. She was a systematic racist operating under the guise of pedagogical concern. Patricia, Tyler, I have a proposal for you. Robert turned, and something in his eyes made Patricia realize that this man had made an irreversible decision. We're going to prove Coleman wrong about Tyler, about you, and about all the other families that she's hurting. How? Patricia asked hesitantly. First, Tyler is going back to school tomorrow. He hasn't been officially expelled yet, just suspended pending investigation. Second, I'm going to hire the best civil rights lawyers in California. Robert smiled for the first time in days, but it was a smile that combined kindness and lethal determination. And third, we're going to document everything. That night, Robert made 3 strategic phone calls. The first was to David Chun, an investigative journalist at the Los Angeles Times who specialized in exposing institutional discrimination. David, I need a favor. There's a story in Beverly Hills that might interest his. Systematic discrimination against scholarship children at an elite school. Solid evidence. David always got straight to the point. Recordings, documents, multiple witnesses, and a clear pattern of behavior over many years. Robert paused. David, this is going to be bigger than just a story about school prejudice. It will expose how racism operates under the guise of educational excellence. The second call was to Amanda Rodriguez, a civil lawyer specializing in racial discrimination cases. Amanda, I need to sue a school for systematic civil rights violations. Do you have a child there, Robert? No. But I have a conscience. The third call was the most unexpected. Robert hired a digital security company to investigate the academic records of all scholarship students at Prestige Academy over the past 5 years. I want to know how many talented children have been systematically discouraged, transferred, or expelled under dubious pretexts. And I want comparative statistics on the treatment of paying students versus scholarship students. The next morning, Robert arrived at school with Tyler holding his hand. Coleman was waiting for them at the reception desk with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Mr. Hamilton, what a surprise to see you here again. I hope you've come to resolve Tyler's situation in a civilized manner. I've come to enroll Tyler back in regular classes, Robert replied calmly. The investigation into the alleged stolen components is still ongoing, correct? Coleman blinked several times. Well, yes, technically, but... Then Tyler is returning to class today. And I will be monitoring her education very closely from now on. Robert smiled, but his eyes had a coldness that made Coleman instinctively recoil. During recess, Tyler approached Robert, who was waiting in the courtyard. Mr. Hamilton, Aunt Coleman called me in for another talk. She said you're being very kind, but that too much kindness can be bad for kids like me. Kids like you, his? She said that when important people take an interest in us, we can develop unrealistic expectations about our future. That you may be doing this out of pity, but pity doesn't last forever. Robert knelt down to Tyler's height, placing his hands on the boy's shoulders. Tyler, listen carefully to what I'm going to say. You are one of the smartest kids I've ever met. Your skin color does not determine your ability. His mother's profession does not limit his dreams. And any adult who says otherwise is lying. Tyler smiled for the first time in days. Do you really believe I can be a scientist? I believe you can be anything you want to be. Robert stood up. And I'm going to prove it to the whole world. What Coleman didn't know was that every conversation between her and him was being discreetly recorded by a small device that Amanda Rodriguez had provided. What she couldn't have imagined was that Robert had hired investigators to analyze the academic records of all the poor black children who had passed through the school in recent years. And what the principal really couldn't comprehend was that his arrogance in underestimating both Tyler and Robert was building the strongest case of institutional discrimination that California courts would see in that decade. While Coleman continued her pedagogical conversations with Tyler, Thinking she was molding a child to accept his reality, Robert worked quietly behind the scenes, gathering not only lawyers and journalists, but also a detailed dossier that would prove that Prestige Academy had systematically destroyed the dreams of dozens of talented children simply because they were poor or black. Arrogance had blinded Coleman to a fundamental truth. When you underestimate powerful people who have decided to protect those they love, you are not just making a tactical mistake. You are signing her professional death warrant. For now, Coleman thought she controlled the narrative, molding yet another problem child into accepting her place. But in the coming days, she would discover that she had chosen the wrong opponent in the wrong battle, and that his career was about to become a case study in how prejudice can destroy those who practice it. The following Thursday, Robert received a call from David Chun. "Robert, you won't believe what we've discovered. Coleman isn't just prejudiced, she's been operating a systematic scheme for 5 years." "What do you mean?" "She accepts private donations from wealthy families in exchange for ensuring that his children don't have to compete academically with talented scholarship recipients. Literally selling discrimination." David paused dramatically. "And we have bank documents proving it all." Robert smiled coldly. "Perfect. It's time for the grand finale." On Friday morning, Prestige Academy was in an uproar. News vans surrounded the entrance, and Coleman ran desperately down the main hallway trying to understand what was happening. "Principal Coleman," shouted a reporter, "is it true that you were caught systematically discriminating against scholarship students?" Coleman forced a nervous smile. "I don't know what you're talking about. This is a reputable institution." It was at that very moment that Robert appeared at the main entrance, accompanied by Amanda Rodriguez, David Chun, and Tyler, holding hands. But this was no longer the frightened Tyler of the past few days. This was a child who knew that justice was being served. "Principal Coleman," Robert said loudly enough for everyone to hear, "I would like to officially introduce Tyler Washington, the young scientist who will represent this school at the state fair." Coleman blinked several times, clearly confused. "Mr. Hamilton, we discussed this. It's not possible." Amanda Rodriguez approached with a folder. "Actually, according to federal civil rights law, not only is it possible, but it is mandatory. And we have evidence that this institution has systematically violated those rights." "Evidence?" Coleman laughed nervously. "What evidence?" David Chun turned on a tablet, and Coleman's voice echoed clearly across the courtyard. "Kids like Tyler should accept his place in life and stop dreaming about things that aren't for his social class." There was complete silence. Parents, teachers, and staff stopped to listen as other recordings were played one after another. People of her social class sometimes develop inappropriate behaviors when exposed to environments far above her natural reality. Between us, we need to be realistic about the limitations of these scholarship students. Coleman was visibly pale. That was taken out of context. "I was just protecting Tyler." Robert interrupted. "Like you protected Jasmine when you told her she should focus on cooking? Or Marcus when you banned her from participating in the art contest?" Amanda opened the folder. "We have documentation of 17 cases in the last 5 years. 17 talented children systematically discouraged, transferred, or expelled. All black or from working-class families." A murmur of horror rippled through the crowd of parents. Several mothers began calling other families, sharing the discovery. "And there's more," David Chun continued. "We discovered bank transfers from specific families to Principal Coleman's personal account. Private donations in exchange for ensuring that his children faced no real academic competition." Coleman tried to walk away, but found microphones and cameras in every direction. "You don't understand. These children, they don't have the same cultural background. Like Tyler, who got straight A's in math and science." Robert asked calmly. "Or like the research I funded showing that the average grades of scholarship students at this school are higher than those of paying students." Patricia appeared beside Tyler, still wearing his work uniform, but with a dignity that made several parents lower their eyes in shame. "Principal Coleman," Patricia said firmly, "for 2 years you told me that Tyler needed to accept his limitations. That I was being too ambitious. That fathers like him should teach his children realism." Tyler let go of Robert's hand and walked over to Coleman. "Aunt Coleman, why did you say I was a thief? Why did you say kids like me are no good?" The innocent question from an 8-year-old echoed through the silent courtyard. Coleman couldn't formulate a response. Amanda Rodriguez held up a court order. Principal Coleman, you are officially notified. The Department of Education is taking over the investigation of this institution, and there is a search and seizure warrant for his personal financial records. This is absurd, Coleman shouted, finally losing her composure. I've dedicated my life to education. These people are distorting normal pedagogical conversations. Pedagogical conversations? Robert repeated, playing another recording on David's tablet. Coleman's voice sounded clear. When important people take an interest in his life, they can develop unrealistic expectations. Too much kindness can be harmful to children like Tyler. Several mothers in the crowd began to cry. One of them approached Patricia. My God, Patricia, I didn't know. Forgive our blindness. Coleman attempted one last desperate defense. You can't destroy my career because of misunderstandings. I've been respected in the education system for 20 years. Tyler looked directly at her. Aunt Coleman, you destroyed the dreams of many children. But you didn't destroy mine. Robert put his hand on Tyler's shoulder. Starting today, Tyler Washington is not just a student at this school. He is the first beneficiary of the Hamilton Educational Foundation, which will offer full scholarships to talented children regardless of her socioeconomic background. The crowd applauded, but Coleman was unrecognizable, trembling with rage and despair. You've ruined everything. Everything I've built. No, Robert said calmly. You ruined everything yourself the moment you decided that skin color and social background determine human potential. As Coleman was escorted away by lawyers and officials from the Department of Education, Tyler held Robert's hand. Mr. Hamilton, thank you for believing in me when no one else did. Robert smiled, but his eyes still shone with determination. Because even though justice had been served with Coleman, he knew there were hundreds of other children like Tyler facing the same injustices in schools across the country. And at that moment, watching Tyler smile for the first time in weeks, Robert realized that his true mission was just beginning. Coleman's downfall was only the first step in an educational revolution that would change the fate of thousands of talented children. 6 months later, Tyler was on stage at the Los Angeles Convention Center, holding the first-place trophy from the state science fair. His project on low-cost domestic solar energy had so impressed the judges that 3 universities had already offered him full scholarships for when he finished high school. I want to dedicate this award to my mother, who worked 3 jobs to give me an education, and to Mrs. Hamilton, who taught me that dreams have no color, Tyler said into the microphone, her voice firm and clear. In the audience, Patricia wept with pride, now the executive director of the Hamilton Educational Foundation. Beside her, Robert smiled as he watched not only Tyler, but 15 other scholarship children who had been taken out of Prestige Academy and transferred to schools that recognized true talent. Coleman was not present, of course. After losing her teaching license and facing charges of racial discrimination, she worked as a clerk in a bookstore, her 20-year career destroyed by her own arrogance. The newspapers still called her the principal who sold prejudice. Mr. Hamilton, Tyler approached him after the ceremony, Ms. Coleman taught me something important without meaning to. What was that, champ? That when someone tries to put him down, it's because they're afraid of his brilliance. Robert hugged the boy, realizing that this 8-year-old had developed a wisdom that many adults take decades to find. At that moment, watching Tyler hold the trophy, Robert understood that the best revenge had not been to destroy Coleman, but to prove that she was completely wrong about human potential. Tyler was not just a talented boy, he was living proof that greatness has no address, color, or last name. And now, hundreds of other children would have the same opportunity to shine. If this story of overcoming adversity touched his heart, subscribe to the channel for more stories that prove that justice always finds a way to overcome prejudice, even when we least expect it.